Does that do it?
Yeah,
It
awesome.
does. Yay.
How you
Hello.
doing, bro?
Doing all right. It started off as a gloomy day, but the sun's out, so I'm a sunny person. So I'm happy about that.
Well, bro, I'm gonna jump into it straight away, and I've been subscribed to the channel for a long, long time. I think it's been so long now that well, actually, I was subscribed to you on a different channel, but you've been on YouTube for like 15 years, haven't you?
I've been on YouTube since like early 2000 sorry, not early October 2008.
Yeah, yeah. You originally started uploading Tenkaichi 3 videos, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so yeah, I went back and looked at like your old stuff, and I was wondering, was Tenkaichi 3 the first Tenkaichi that you got into, or were you playing the other ones as well?
No, so if you want me to give you the whole story there,
Yeah,
back when you and I were kids, because I'm assuming that you're around my age, I'm 31.
I'm 32, yeah.
Yeah, wow, you got 1 year on me. Okay. Yeah, back when we were kids, I was not the brightest, and I say that because when I was watching Dragon Ball, I never gave a second thought to, we have PlayStation 1, we got PlayStation 2. Is there a Dragon Ball video game that exists? And I got a PlayStation 2 at that time, and my first game was Ultimate Spider-Man. And my childhood friend at that time came over, and this was back in, I don't know if you guys have the system in the UK, but in America, whenever you went to GameStop or EB Games, they had a system where you could rent a game for like 30 days or something.
Yeah, we had
And that's
Blockbuster
just,
over here.
yeah. And that system is completely gone. But back then, my friend had rented Tenkaichi 2, brought it over, and believe me when I say I was spamming angry Kamehameha the whole time. That was all I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. So
So
in order it was Tenkaichi 2,
yeah.
Budokai 3, because my Korean friend had brought that over. Then it was Tenkaichi 1, Dragon Ball Z Sagas, and then Tenkaichi 3.
Oh wow, okay. Was there any disappointment with them saying that it's going to be Sparking Zero over a traditional Budokai game for you, or was you more excited for Sparking?
Um, Actually, back in like circa 2014, there was a time when my friends and I were really, really wanting, excuse me, really wanting a sequel to Tenkaichi 3. And if you recall, somewhere around that time, I think it was actually 2010 or 11, there was a fake announcement for a Dragon Ball Sparking Omega. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the name, but I remember the outrage because one of my friends is a massive Dragon Ball fan, and I remember it was he got really upset over it. He was in the forum spamming people. So I don't remember the name, but I remember the outrage.
Yes, Dragon Ball Sparking Omega was, I think it was actually announced around my 18th or 19th birthday in 2010 or 2011, because I was in Costa Rica at that time. And people were getting like super excited because we're like, hey, we've been wanting Tenkaichi 4 for the longest time, and now we're finally getting it. Fast forward not even a week, and it was debunked as completely fake.
Hmm.
So moving on to your original question, I was mostly terrified when I saw the teaser trailer for Sparking Zero, because after 2014 and 15, my friends and I were like, Tenkaichi 3 has so much great tech and movement and X, Y, and Z that if they made a new sequel or a new entry in this trilogy, we were really afraid that they would just ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then we found out that, you know what, we don't want a sequel anymore, because what if they make a sequel and then it turns out to not meet Tenkaichi 3's expectations, and we'll just end up going back to Tenkaichi 3 all over again. But now I'm at a point where I'm treating Sparking Zero as a brand new game, and
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to that. And I really hope that because it's a modern game, Bandai can add a lot of different things to the game to make it even comparable slightly to Tenkaichi 3 in terms of the body block, for example, in Tenkaichi 3, which enables you to do like dash maneuvers and Dragon Dash cancels and whatnot. That one change, if they could just add that one change, I would be so happy. We don't need all the other movement tech,
Mm.
just that one thing. But to answer your question, no, I'm actually super happy that we're getting Sparking Zero, and contrary to what other people think, I do love Budokai. I just suck at it.
Yeah.
And if we did get a Budokai 4, I would totally be for that. Even a Verse Limit 2, I would totally be happy with that.
I was gonna ask you that before we move on to Sparking Zero. What's your opinion on Burst Limit? Because I loved it, but apparently a lot of people weren't that in favor of it. It was quite a controversial Dragon Ball game.
Burst Limit was one of the few Dragon Ball games I did not buy, and it wasn't because I didn't like it. It was mainly because it was at a time when we were sort of still working our way up in terms of finances. So at that time, I had a PlayStation 2 and a bunch of games, but PlayStation 3 games were slightly more expensive, and we were kind of trying to save money there.
Hmm.
And when I played Burst Limit, I played the demo that had released at the time, and I had no clue what I was doing. Like when I played Budokai 3 with my friend, we kind of knew about cancels, but I had no idea how they functioned.
Yeah.
So when I played Burst Limit, I enjoyed what little I did for literally just kind of like button mashing and kind of doing whatever the skill list offered. But I never bought the game, and as I saw later on in the years how people in the community were finding cancels and extending their combos, I thought that was really cool. I personally really like Burst Limit. I just can't play it for beans, but I probably will get back on it at
Oh,
some point.
awesome. All right, cool. Well, to move into like Tenkaichi and Sparking Zero, wants to ask you because I've been watching your gameplay and your tutorials and you teaching people for a very, very long time. And there's another player that I've been watching. I think his name's Poet or Poem, something like that. I think he's a Spanish
Age, you
player.
mean?
Page, that's it, Page. Yeah.
Age.
You two to because I always thought I was good at Tenkaichi, and then I came across your page and his. Would you say that you're one of the best players across the board on the game, or is there like a whole scene that we're not aware of?
So Paige is the number one Italian player, and technically he's supposed to be the world's unofficial best player
Hmm.
because he was the one that created the competitive scene to begin with. And during the time that he created the competitive scene, that was also at the exact same time that I unintentionally left Tenkaichi 3 for a little while, and I went to go conquer Raging Blast 1 and 2, and then I also decided to just put some Dragon Ball away for a little while and enjoy some other games again. But that was at the time that he created the competitive scene, and at that time, I could definitely say that in America, I still was easily top 10. Globally, though, I would probably have been top 30 or 50 at that time. And the reason for that is because you know how important it is for having local matches. When you're able to play someone locally, you have someone that you can play with in an offline connection. You get to challenge your limits, you get to find new tech, you get to explore the game in different aspects. Like being able to play someone whether it's on your level or on a lower level locally is such a huge advantage, and I never had that luxury because I live in Canada, and honestly, while I am aware that some gaming events do exist in America, Canada doesn't have any, and the
Mm.
closest one that we had was in a city, or I think it's a city. Honestly, my geography's not that great. Called Montreal,
Hmm.
and Montreal is actually where they had a lot of Smash Bros tournaments, Street Fighter tournaments. I think some Tekken tournaments as well. But that was at a time when my dad, because I'm Indian, right? In our culture, video games aren't exactly looked upon in the best light.
Hmm.
And my dad didn't really understand what I was doing in video games at that time. So for me to even bring up the concept of flying down to Montreal for something was very foreign to him.
Yeah.
And he was like, do your studies first, and then we can do that. And I was doing that, but then it was a matter of the tournaments happening, and a lot of things didn't happen. So back to the original question, a lot of things happened between the time that Paige created the scene and the time that I left, conquered Raging Blast, played some other games, was on and off for several years after that. But if I were to give you a direct answer today, I would definitely say that in terms of global skill, I am probably at least top 10 in the world. And the reason why I say that is because there are South American players, there are French players, there are Italian players, and without my being able to play them in a local match, like on the same screen and everything, there's no way to truly determine if I'm like really up there or somewhere in the middle or somewhere lower. Um,
Top
in
10's still
terms of
pretty crazy though.
it is definitely, yeah, but when you put into perspective how many people actually sat down and tried to explore the game in terms of tech, characters, versatility, what the game has to offer, and everything, there actually are not a whole lot of people that do that.
Hmm.
And the people that do that, they don't actually go out of their way to sharpen every single one of those aspects. They'll probably focus on like one and then leave the other ones alone. I've always, ever since I came back to the game, which was a year ago today, I made it a point to master each of these aspects. So, where I was going with that is in terms of global skill, I would say I'm still at least top 10, maybe top 15. In terms of knowledge, easily top 3.
Hmm.
And in terms of character mastery, I would go out on a limb and say I'm number 1 in the world. I
Wow.
have yet to see another person that's mastered the entire roster like I have. Not that Paige hasn't, but I feel like because he was so absorbed in his competitive scene that he hasn't actually gotten around to exploring all these other characters. Because I remember a lot of the last couple of times he and I played, he was really surprised by like the hitbox that Android 16 had, the Axis that Super Trunks had, and a bunch of these other characters. And the fact that he was surprised by that, I'm not cutting him down in any way. But the fact that he was surprised by that meant that he hadn't actually explored any of that. So I
Okay.
would say in terms of character mastery, I'm definitely number 1 in the world.
And are you aware of like a Japanese or Korean scene for this game, or is it predominantly in America and Europe where it's played at a high level?
After Paige created the competitive scene, I think that the Asians did create their own competitive scene as well.
Hmm.
And it's very funny you asked that question because from the dawn of time in Tenkaichi, and I don't know if this applies to Tenkaichi 1, but it might start with Tenkaichi 2, the Japanese players have always been the most technical players in the world.
Yeah.
So when we were getting Sparking Zero gameplay, I was literally like hunting around in the Japanese community because I'm friends with a lot of them. We're all really good friends. Like the American community and the Japanese community get along pretty well. At least around a decade ago they did. I don't know about today. And I was hunting around after Sparking Zero gameplay came out, looking for the Japanese gameplay because they always had a knack for showcasing uh, tech, showcasing really high combos,
Hmm.
showcasing a lot of damage. We apparently it seems that Sparking Zero has been a little dumbed down from Tenkaichi 3, so we don't really know. But getting back on track for the original question, they definitely do have a competitive scene. The Japanese actually had a tournament, I think just before or during COVID, and I could actually give you the channel to where that happened, but I would have to do a little digging to find the actual VOD. The Koreans also have a competitive scene, but I haven't actually seen like everyone in one space and playing on the same screen. I've seen videos, but I haven't seen all of these like faces, right? Like how you and I are here. And what else am I forgetting? China. China has a very big competitive scene, and there actually are quite a few YouTube channels that have a lot of footage, but I haven't seen again like everyone in a space like the South Americans and Italians have done.
Okay. And so I wanted to ask you because I've played arena fighters all my life as well. And to me, the Budokai Tenkaichi series always separated itself from all the others. It always felt like it was a cut above the rest in terms of tech, depth, and scope. What? Because I've gone on your channel, I've seen your Ninja Storm gameplay, so I'm assuming that like your I've looked through your stuff. Like I was watching some of your fights on there, and I wanted to ask you, as somebody that's like very like at the highest level of Tenkaichi, what do you think separates the Budokai Tenkaichi arena fighters from all the other ones?
As someone that avoids social media a lot, I actually didn't know that Tenkaichi 3 was even separated that much from all the other arena fighters. I don't think I found out about that until like a year ago, and I didn't really know why because out of all the arena fighters I've played, I personally enjoyed Tenkaichi, Naruto Storm, and one other arena fighter the most. The other one I'm thinking of, I think, was a PlayStation 2 game I used to play with my childhood friends back in the day. If I remember it, I'll hit you up with a DM later. But could you run that question by me one more time, just so I don't get off track?
Yeah, yeah. So, like a lot of people see Budokai Tenkaichi as like the pinnacle of all arena fighters. It's the one that people take seriously. Not that they didn't take Ninja Storm seriously, but you can probably see a lot of people in the FGC, uh, in Tekken, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear. A lot of them are looking to jump into Sparking Zero and take it seriously. Why do you think the FGC in particular, or just people in general, view Budokai as a serious fighting game as opposed to other arena fighters that are sort of like laughed at?
I'm not entirely sure how I can answer this question, so I think I can start off by saying, and for all the American players that watch this, our American players are very stupid. When it comes to when it comes to arena fighters, like the only reason why Tenkaichi 3 is getting so much attention from North American players today is because of Sparking Zero. Like the general American player that would sit down and take a look at Tenkaichi 3 and then like drop it 5 or 10 minutes later and then get on Twitter or any social media platform that can reach out to other people, they would say that, oh, Tenkaichi 3 is copy and paste, all characters play the same, yada yada yada. The majority of people that have said that have not played the game for more than 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Or they've sat down, played it for 5 minutes, button mashed, and not actually bothered to like, hey, does this game have anything to offer? Let me see what's in the skill list. They don't actually bother to see that, oh, this character has X, Y, and Z attack. This character has X, Y, and Z energy attack. They have all of these different options. The majority of American players, in my opinion, and I don't, and you can tell me if this is accurate or not. I've always seen that the communities on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean have been much more open-minded about arena fighters than Americans have been. And the reason I say that is because, again, Americans, when it comes to arena fighters, they'll sit down and give it like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. Like they won't bother doing anything more than that. They'll do a lot of button mashing combos and then call it a day. They won't actually sit down and say, "Can this cancel into this? Can this combo this? What does this character have to offer? What are the differences between these characters?" And the reason why, the only way I think I can answer your question is that Tenkaichi 3 is like a happy accident. Tenkaichi 2 and 3, what makes them so advanced are actually, well, in Tenkaichi 2's case, it's mostly all of their broken mechanics.
Hmm.
And in Tenkaichi 3, I think it was all accidental mechanics. Because just to give you some perspective, we have two mechanics that involve doing a dash with a charged ki blast at your opponent in Tenkaichi 3, and there are two techs involved from doing that, both of which are one frame. And both of those, if I recall correctly, were discovered by a South American player several years ago. So whenever you look at Tenkaichi 3 tech, I think it's more so a matter of how many players have loved Dragon Ball so much that they've actually tried to sit down and lab their hearts out to see if this game actually has any tech. And that tech, those players are the reason why Tenkaichi 3 or Tenkaichi in general stands out so much from other arena fighters. It might just have something to do with the players' love for the game. Now, I'm not saying that Naruto Storm people, for example, don't enjoy the game, but I think and you can correct me on this if you have any more knowledge than I do on Naruto Storm. I've heard a lot of horror stories about Naruto Storm's toxic community, and when you get into toxic players versus players that actually want to learn about the game, they get separated. And instead of coming together and finding out if they actually have anything that the game can offer, they end up living in their own world. Like toxic people will stay where they are without actually bothering to explore the game, and the only time that they'll actually find out if the game has anything more to offer is when the other side of the spectrum is uploading videos saying this character has this tech, this character has this person can do this, and then eventually there's like a middle ground where they can all meet, but they still won't actually work together, if that makes sense.
When you say that the Ninja Storm scene is toxic, what exactly do you mean? Like, are they like toxic towards the game or just toxic towards each other in general?
I think it's a mixture of both, but mainly the latter. You said towards each other in general, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's mainly the latter, and I don't know why that is, but like it's not like our Dragon Ball community is also toxic. Right? Every single community has their fair share of good people, bad people, and ugly people. But from the horror stories I've heard, it stems from just it can go from racism all the way to the other side of it,
Wow.
where people are just so super nasty with each other that they won't actually even bother talking to each other. Now, there is one thing I can say that the Naruto Storm community probably has over the Dragon Ball community. If two players are toxic with each other, they'll still go out of their way to actually like associate with each other. And the Dragon Ball community, it's more so that we've got people that are destroying the community from the inside or just throwing their weight all over the place, that we've kind of tried to alienate these people because in terms of this is actually going to be some really bad retrospective here, but Naruto Storm and Tenkaichi 3. Naruto Storm is like up here in terms of popularity, in my opinion, because it's still so new. And Tenkaichi 3 is an outdated game, right? It's a very old game. So for all of the people that we've been getting into Tenkaichi 3 today, we've actually been trying to make it a point of finding out between our North American community, our South American community, our Italian community, and the French communities, which people have been the biggest problems and are not actually contributing to the community and instead just throwing their weight and egos around, to actually root those people out and keep them out so that the community can continue to grow. Whereas with Naruto Storm, it's more like if X person is toxic with Y person, they'll still actually they'll still mingle and the community around them will still be there to witness that. And then at some point there's like a middle ground or a borderline where the community will say, look, you guys are obviously enjoying all of this beef. Maybe you guys can sort it out and we can continue growing as a community.
Mm.
I've seen one or two cases actually happen like that in the Storm community in the last couple of years, and it's very, very rare something like that ever happens in the Dragon Ball community, especially in Tenkaichi, or at least in Tenkaichi, from my observation. To me, that makes me sad, but I think that's the best way I can answer your question.
So then, just to expand on that a little bit, obviously with Sparking Zero, there's going to be like an influx of players. There's going to be all these new players that are coming in, people that are either casual or from the FGC or that are jumping into fighting games for the first time just because it's Dragon Ball. I don't know if you would be considered a figurehead in the scene, just because like you're very well known for your tech. But if you are a figurehead in the scene, how do you think it's going to pan out in terms of the established Dragon Ball community being welcoming to new players?
So, I would say that I'm definitely a figurehead in Tenkaichi, and I'm definitely one of the more positive people. Paige is also one of the more positive people, and I would say, God, as I lose my thought train, can you run the question by me one more time? I'm so sorry.
So sometimes when there's a new game that's come out, like in with Tekken 8, because they did dumb down a lot of things, we had a lot of new players coming in. And my experience, being one of like the older Tekken heads, is it's been mostly positive, welcoming new players in. There's been some things that have happened here and there, but it's been okay. But I have seen in some scenes when there is an influx of new players, the established scene can either like try to gatekeep or not be very welcoming.
Yes.
Do you
Okay.
think it's gonna? Do you think the Dragon Ball community, the established Dragon Ball community, will be welcoming, or do you think there'll be a level of gatekeeping going on?
I do hate to say that we do actually have some people that have admitted to gatekeeping. I'm one of the very, very many people that try not to gatekeep, and it's just the reason why there aren't a whole lot of tutorials on YouTube. Let me just clear this one up really quick. Is because tutorials take a long time to do, take a lot of time and effort, and it takes a really long time to find out how to get those points across to in layman's terms. So the Dragon Ball community has a lot of people that are both good, bad, and ugly, but I would say that our good way outweighs the bad. And we will have a lot of people that are going to be welcoming newcomers, and a lot of people. I've even made it a point of telling all of our North American players, like, if we're getting new people in this community, and even for Sparking Zero, and if you're not going to welcome them or at least make sure that you can help them get better or help steer them in the right direction to accomplish their goal, I'm going to step in and I'm going to tell you that you're doing something wrong. If you're not going to be doing X, Y, and Z to make a positive uh, pathway for the community, I'm going to step in and make sure that you change that, because Tenkaichi 3 is old and it's stemming into Sparking Zero. We don't want any negativity. Sure, we're going to be getting a lot of new problems, new trolls, new bad eggs. We'll deal with that when the time comes. But generally, I would say that the Dragon Ball community, as it stands currently, is definitely going to be welcoming a lot of new people, and we will be doing what we can to help people accomplish their goal.
And how is the Dragon Ball? Because it's new to me, even though I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. I've not ever jumped into any Dragon Ball games competitively. How are you guys when it comes to like money matches or beef sets when players have like an issue and they want to settle it on the game? Are like the people that I guess would be considered the figureheads like yourself, are you guys open to those sort of things or do you sort of shut them down?
Myself personally, I've never been one for doing that, only because if I'm going to be doing a money match, I'd much rather do it locally. But that's
Hmm.
just me. I just don't like playing Tenkaichi 3 online. I never have. My tolerance for it has grown a lot in the last year. because of how much I've been playing ever since I came back to the game.
Hmm.
But I would say that people are open to it, especially because money matches do accomplish quite a few goals. One, of course, is it gives an ego boost to both sides,
Hmm.
knowing that like everyone around them is going to be wondering, oh shit, who's going to win? Is X going to win? Is Y going to win? Second is the amount of money and what that money can do for them, because with the economy the way it is in America, money matches can be very beneficial to someone who's been investing a hell of a lot of time into a particular video game.
Yeah.
The amount of growth that that person will experience from winning a money match is exponential, especially if they have a YouTube channel. Like if you're someone like Sonic Fox, for example, who's doing a money match and you win that, like the amount of growth you're going to get from that is crazy. I would say that there are a lot of people who probably wouldn't prefer to do a money match, and it's not because they don't want to, it's simply because they can't afford it.
Hmm.
If they afford it, they'd probably still do it, even if they might lose, because at the end of the day, in Tenkaichi specifically, it's mainly for entertainment. I wouldn't even say it's about who's better or who's worse, because again, Tenkaichi 3 is technically on its way out. Just to clear that up really quick, I don't think that Sparking Zero is going to make Tenkaichi 3 obsolete. I still think that people are going to be playing Tenkaichi 3. But to get back on track there, yes, I do think that there are people that will shut it down, but I think that there are more people that will be for money matches rather than against them.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I do want to ask you quickly before I was going to ask you some more Sparking Zero questions, but I wanted to know because I've been watching your Rage and Blast videos as well.
Can I
How?
stop you for a second?
Yeah, yeah.
You said just as we were starting, you said that you had been subscribed to my channel for a long time. Can you tell me how long exactly?
So I had a channel called Saying God, that no longer exists. I subscribed to you. I think it was maybe 10 years ago.
Oh
Um,
my God, we're
yeah.
going back a decade?
This was when I was doing nothing on YouTube, absolutely jack shit. And me and my friends were
Okay.
playing Dragon Ball games. We were looking to like copy people because we weren't the most competent with coming up with tech. And we
Hmm.
came across you had a very popular video on your page, but it was a Ninja Storm video. I think you were using the fourth Hokage, and you were fighting some other player. You were going through loads of different characters. You used Kakashi as well at some point, and then we clicked on your page and we saw Tenkaichi videos. So it was about like 10 years ago, I'd say.
I don't know why those Storm videos have done so well on my channel, because I'm not good at Storm. Like, I actually considered myself to be pretty good at Storm 1,
Hmm.
and mainly because, how much of Storm have you actually played, by the way, before I get into this?
I've got all of them apart from Connections because Connections didn't launch with friend lobbies, so I said that I'm not touching that. But I played Ninja Storm 2 is probably the one that I played the most. I wouldn't say I'm like great at them. I've got two friends that are really good at them, but I'm competent. I can get by on them.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I considered myself pretty decent or good at Naruto Storm 1 was because first of all, it came out when I still had my childhood friends around. So two or three of my friends would come over to my house, we'd play together. And if you remember the substitution jutsu system in that game, you actually had to time it properly in
Mm,
order to get it off, right?
yeah.
That's equivalent to doing the Z counter in Tenkaichi 2 and Tenkaichi 3. Tenkaichi 2, by the way, I would say it's a lot harder to do it there, and it's called the combo breaker. But not to get off track over here. Because of that system in Naruto Storm 1, I actually considered myself pretty good. And after Storm, I think 3, so that was the last one that I actually played. I got Storm. What was the one that came after that? Was it called Revolution?
It was something with Generations or something like that.
Generations, Revolutions, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I played those a little bit and I didn't really bother with them. And then, of course, the Storm videos that have been doing well on my channel are against one or two people that I played with on Raging Blast at the time. And they said, hey, I want to beat your ass in Naruto Storm now because I want some revenge.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we'll get on Storm. And I hadn't played Storm in a really long time, but back then I still treated Storm like I did Tenkaichi. My philosophy back then for Tenkaichi was that if you could play, even for Raging Blast actually, was that if you could take random and still win, it really actually showcased how good you were with the game, the raw skill that you had. Now, I wasn't good at Storm anymore at that time, or at all in general, to just put it bluntly. And I was treating it like I did Tenkaichi still, where I would take random characters because I still liked exploring random characters. Now, at that time, I knew that a character like Karin was not a really good character, and I know that she's on the thumbnail for one of those videos,
Mhm.
and that one of those videos did like 50,000 views. I'm like, why did this video do so well? Aren't I just getting my ass handed to me?
Yeah.
And it turned out that the Naruto Storm community, from what I learned over the next several years from the time that video went up, was that virtually nobody ever chooses random. So I was like, that still doesn't make any sense. And then someone told me that because you actually chose random and you didn't leave the game right after that is probably why you did well. So I don't know if the Storm community has a one-sided mentality where they only choose characters that are good, because I actually have a Naruto Storm veteran, a very good friend of mine who's in my clan now, waiting to play Sparking Zero with us, who was known for using a little lesser known characters in Naruto Storm. And I think just recently he started using one of the newest characters that was actually branded as one of the most recent worst characters added to Storm, and he was doing really well with them. So I think the Naruto Storm community probably has a lot to learn in terms of character versatility, because just because a naturally good character is good and another character is bad doesn't mean that a worst character does not have any versatility and they
Mm.
can still be used. I can hear something coming through your mic. Is everything fine?
Every time I start recording, these idiots next door, they start building or like they're doing something over there. Is it really loud?
Oh, okay. It's uh, it's semi loud. I can deal with it though. I don't know if it'll bother you when you hear the recording though.
Yeah, I don't know. It happens every time. It's like an ongoing joke on my channel now. Every time I go to record, these idiots somehow find out. I hope they see this video so they can see me insulting them. But
Okay, but anyway, yeah, so I feel like the Naruto Storm community probably doesn't explore all of their characters as much as they should. I feel like all of those characters, just because a bad character is naturally branded as bad, doesn't mean that the character cannot be good. Like
mm,
if you take my skills in Tenkaichi, for example, I main characters like Dodoria, Nappa, Salza, Raccoon. I used to main Tambourine. I also main Cybermen, of course, and using
Cybermen.
all of Cybermen, he's one of my favorite characters. And
Well,
using all of the characters is a matter of one aspect in the game: defense.
mm,
In order to do well with these characters, you need to prioritize defensive play over offensive play, because Cyberman, for example, is a very weak character. He's got low defense, terrible attack. You need to have good movement and defense in order to excel with him and look for openings where you can attack your opponent. If you don't have any of those skills, what's the point of using the character, right?
mhm.
So that translates over to Naruto Storm as well. If you're using a character like Karin or Kushina Uzumaki or I don't know. I think Kabuto is apparently supposed to be a really good character, but I always thought he was bad. But what I'm getting at is using all of those characters is a matter of you, the player, being good with your defense capabilities in order to utilize that character properly.
Okay, I didn't know that about Storm, but I did want to ask you about Rage and Blast, if you don't mind. I was watching your Rage and
Go
Blast
ahead.
videos, and how does Rage and like we're looking at Sparking Zero, since I think Rage and Blast was the last real series that comes close to Sparking that came out.
Yes.
How does that compare, like based on what you've played and based on what you've seen? Do you think there's going to be much crossover there, or is it very separated?
Raging Blast's and Tenkaichi systems are very different. So the only similarity that Raging Blast has to Tenkaichi stems actually from Tenkaichi 2. I don't know if you knew this, but Tenkaichi 2 actually has a form of cancels. So if you charge a smash, for example, with the square button, you can cancel it with either circle or a cross. And yes, because you're in the UK, I'm going to call it cross and not X, because I know that's what they do over there. If you cancel it with circle while you're charging a smash, you'll
Mm,
automatically go into a counter attack. But if you cancel it with cross, you'll return to neutral. And if you do R1 and then you press square, this does something called a jump smash. And if you hold square, if you hold your jump smash and then you press X, it will also cancel that attack. So Tenkaichi 2 has its own form of cancels, but Raging Blast was made for the cancel system. You can cancel charged ki blasts. You can cancel a charged smash into a sidestep. You can cancel a charged smash into a block. Depending on the character, you can cancel something called a signature skill into another cancel. Like, for example, Vegeta has a signature skill called Gallic Shooting, where he basically shoots 10 small ki blasts, which actually stun you. So that's called Gallic Shooting, and that can be canceled into a charged ki blast. Whether you do it before the 10 hits or on the 10 hits doesn't really matter. The only the only things I would say that are carrying in to Sparking Zero from Raging Blast are one, the switch system. So you've already seen how the panels show up on Sparking Zero, where you have to I think you have to hit L3 and then L3 and R3, and then you have to hit like square, triangle, circle, or cross
Yeah.
in order to switch out. So that's one system that's returning, but not necessarily the same way. And the reason why I say it's not necessarily the same way is because there in Raging Blast you had something called quick transformations. So if you had Goku and you went Super Saiyan and you wanted to go back to base, you would go back to base in real time in Raging Blast. That's not a thing in Sparking Zero. So if you're in Sparking Zero, if you go Super Saiyan and you want to revert to base, you've already seen that there's a whole cutscene that plays out.
Yeah.
Another thing that translates from Raging Blast to Sparking Zero, and this one is actually from Raging Blast 2. If you were um at center or like medium height on the stage in Raging Blast 2, and your opponent smashed you downwards, and you entered your recovery buttons to actually recover, you would do something called I guess I would just call it a recovery dash. You would kind of do like a back roll, and then you would slide against the ground as you're sliding backwards into a recovery roll. And that has actually returned in Sparking Zero, but there's one very big difference. In Raging Blast 2, when you did that recovery roll, you were still susceptible to ki blasts, but if the opponent did a super dash behind you and then square, or they did a super attack, anytime during your back roll in the Raging Blast 2 recovery animation, you would automatically vanish anything that comes at you. It was terrible. I
That
actually
sounds
hated that
ridiculous.
system. It is terrible. Like Raging Blast 2 did a lot of hand holding in that aspect, but it seems that Sparking Zero is going to do a whole lot more with this battle assist system, if you've seen that.
No, what
And
is that?
the battle assist system, it seems that you can put on a battle assist for whatever combos you're doing, super attacks. I haven't actually bothered going through the whole thing, but I can show it to you once we're done here if you want to. Or you
Is this
can
like a is this something that everybody's gonna have to use, or will the more like skilled players be able to take it off and do things manually?
It's optional. You do have the option to turn off all of it. Basically, are you familiar with Street Fighter 6's modern control system?
Yeah, yeah.
Sparking Zero's battle assist system is basically the equivalent of that.
Oh, okay, so it's not gonna be a big factor for players like you because your skill's gonna overcome people
Yes,
doing that.
exactly. Like seasoned players in Street Fighter 6 will definitely take the advantage over someone using modern controls, right? Because I believe when the developers for Street Fighter 6 came out and showcased modern controls, they said, yes, you will be able to do like a Hadoken with one button and then a Shoryuken with one button instead of doing all the old-fashioned inputs for the Dragon Punch and whatnot. But you will be limited in your arsenal if you're using modern controls just because you have everything like literally at your fingertips.
Yeah,
So if a modern control user is up against a seasoned veteran, the seasoned veteran's going to take you out like that. Like they already know what to expect because a modern control person will have all the benefits of offense or basic offense with literally zero defense.
yeah.
So that seems to be what's happening with Sparking Zero, mainly in terms of offense. I don't know about defense because every single time I saw the battle assist list there, I only glanced at it. I didn't bother reading the whole thing.
Okay, all right, well that's not too bad. I don't mind new players having their hands held and getting them into
Yeah,
it. More the merrier, the way I see it, and it's not going to affect players like us that are going to be
right.
learning the game properly. But So
let me stop you for a second.
go
I
on,
apologize
go
for
on.
interrupting. Yeah, I forgot that I didn't finish the Raging Blast 2 recovery roll
Oh
animation.
yeah, yeah, of course, go on.
Yeah, so that's also been brought back in Sparking Zero with two major differences. The first difference is that it's significantly faster than it was before. So in Raging Blast 2, when the opponent recovered, you couldn't actually like stop the animation until you got to the end of it. Once you got to the end of it, you could press cross and then you would do a recovery dragon dash. In Sparking Zero, you can actually stop it at any time, and when you're in that animation, there's no auto vanish. So you don't have
Oh
to
wow.
worry about you don't have to worry about the player getting out of a super attack or super dash attack if they dash towards you while you're in that animation.
Well, that is good to know. I don't particularly want to be dealing with nonsense like that. I think a lot of modern fighting games have a lot of systems that just hold people's hands too
There,
much, so
yeah,
that's
there
good
are
to
a
know.
lot of hand-holding systems in fighting games these days, and I'm really hoping that there's one game that's coming out, I think early next year, Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves. I've really got my eyes on that game,
It
and
looks great.
I'm really hoping it doesn't have any hand-holding.
Well, I think SNK are known for being a bit more like hardcore than most other
Yes, they
people,
are.
so I don't think it will. But I mean, for their sake, in terms of sales, if they're looking at their competitors, I wouldn't be surprised if they started to put some stuffs in the game to draw more people in. Just because
Right,
fighting games sort of, and my experience with fighting games has always been that people are always intimidated by them because they don't have a team to rely on. It's just you and your opponent, and if you're shit, you get exposed there and there. So I don't mind them bringing in those things. I don't like it when those systems overwhelm the game. But if they're there to hold people's hands, I ain't got a problem with it. But
I think the most intimidating. Sorry to interrupt
no,
you.
no, go for it.
I think the most intimidating thing about those games, though, even back then, is the fact that if a casual player genuinely wanted to learn how to be good at the game without actually getting to a competitive level, like they just want to do it for their personal enjoyment,
Yeah,
I think the most intimidating thing is like the first thing that they would do is look at the skill list, and like if they happen to not have any internet access for whatever reason, and they would look at the skill list and be like, this looks like a lot to take in. Where do I even start? And unless those people actually have the mentality or the attitude to sit down and actually try doing like a dragon punch input for the Shoryuken in Street Fighter, or even some of the basic combos that Blaze Blue has to offer, um, I don't really think they're going to get anywhere. So
mm,
I think the fact that we have some hand holding in these games is not necessarily bad. I think the reason why it's not bad is because the developers are purposely putting that system in to invite new players while still keeping the one side of the game that says, hey, if you're using modern controls, you're not going to do well against someone who actually knows what they're doing. So they
yeah,
actually still have a way to distinguish the skilled players from the people that are doing hand holding, and all we have to pray for as the seasoned veterans of these fighting games is that if a casual player or someone who genuinely wants to get good without caring about winning wants to actually learn the game, all we have to care about is that they don't get into the game and then give up
yeah,
immediately. They
yeah,
have to have the mentality to actually put some time into it, and then if someone is good enough to actually someone is kind enough to show them how to do specific inputs that they're struggling with, those are the kind of people that we need to have in the community. Someone that can bring someone up from the bottom and bring them up to a level where they can actually start enjoying the game and learning the process.
yeah. I completely agree. With that in mind, like you said that Sparking Zero is going to be dumbed down a bit from Tenkaichi 3, which I expected after watching your videos and all the tech that you were showing off. I didn't expect to see all of that stuff in Sparking Zero. But with that in mind, what would you say? Let's say Sparking Zero does transfer over quite a lot of the systems. What would you say makes a powerful character? What can people look out for if they're looking to go to tournaments? Let's say Sparking Zero has a tournament scene and they want to go to tournaments and they want to pick a powerful character. What kind of things makes a powerful character in these sort of games?
Um, I would say that what makes a good character naturally good in these games is first DPS, damage per second. So for in Tenkaichi 3's case, Perfect Cell is the best character in the game, and the reason for that is several reasons. So, there three kinds of blasts in Tenkaichi 3. Of course, there's Blast 1, which is moves like Wild Sense, Explosive Wave, etc. Then there's Blast 2, like Super Kamehameha, Goku's Meteor Smash, etc., etc. And then, of course, there's your Ultimate Blast, which is like Perfect Barrier, Instant Transmission Kamehameha for Super Saiyan Goku and whatnot. What makes a character good after that is how much damage they can deal per second from punches, which rushing techniques that they have per punch. So in Perfect Cell's case, he's got Flying Kick, Blaster Wave, Heavy Finish, and then Heavy Finish. And he's also got very good frame data. So in this case, what that means is you're familiar, obviously, with poking and footsies in Street Fighter and whatnot, right? Tenkaichi 3 has its own version of that. So in Tenkaichi 3, when you're punching, you have the ability to stop punching on a certain punch because some punches in Tenkaichi 3 for a character are faster or slower than others in your combo set. And when you've done that, you have the ability to perform a semi-flank, which is basically stop punching and then press R1 and then immediately R2. R1 is ascend, R2 is descend.
Hmm.
This will bring you to the other side of your opponent. And the reason why that's important is because in Tenkaichi 3, you do slightly more damage on the back than you do on the front. So you want to catch your opponent's back as much as you possibly can.
Oh, is that why they sort of like when you press triangle at certain times, they'll slap you to turn around and then continue the combo?
Yes, so that move is called Rolling Hammer, and it does turn you around, but it's not true. Any character that has that combo, it is 100% vanishable.
Okay.
The only time it's unvanishable is obviously when you're either guard crushed or you're paralyzed. So whenever you've gotten your opponent's back, those are mainly the things that you want to aim for. And the other thing that makes Perfect Cell really good is he has a Blast 2 called Barrage Death Beam, which requires only 2 key gauges. And Perfect Cell naturally replenishes his key and charges his key a lot faster than other characters do as well. And besides that, he has a Blast one called After Image, and this one is actually part of the current meta. So in Tenkaichi 3, when you go for a grab and the opponent techs it, you can see how your opponent is like thrown back, right? Like how they get their grab teched. That animation can be canceled by Blast ones with Mystic Breath, After Image Strike, etc. Now, if you cancel that animation, which I call grab stall, if you cancel the grab tech animation with After Image or After Image Strike, the opponent that had the grabbed tech will basically be stuck in that animation and you can go for a free super attack.
Oh
So the
wow.
fact that Cell has that option makes him super good. So I can only speak for Tenkaichi 3 and Tenkaichi 2. I can also speak for Raging Blast 1 and 2 because I'm a top player in those games as well. But I can't speak for any other games because even though I do play some other arena fighters, I don't consider myself good at them.
Okay, and so in terms of like Cell being the best, were there other characters that shared those things that he had, or was he just sort of like a standalone that had those?
There are absolutely other characters that share what Cell has, but the difference between those characters and Cell is that Cell just does everything better. Like you
Right.
know that meme that Cell is perfect?
Yeah.
He's literally perfect in Tenkaichi 3. Is literally the meme for Tenkaichi 3. I also forgot to mention that he has one of the best dash speeds in the game. So what that means is, let's say for example, Perfect Cell um let's use Android 16 as an example. So you know how some characters, I actually believe this is a thing in Street Fighter 6, and I can't remember if you play it or not. You know how in Street Fighter 6, it gives you the characters properties like weight and everything.
Yeah.
So in Tenkaichi 3, the bigger your character is, that actually influences their movement speed as well.
Right. Okay.
So, and for example, if you're playing Android 16 against Perfect Cell, and you're trying to catch Cell as Android 16, it is virtually impossible because you're a bigger character. You naturally move a lot slower.
Yeah.
And where I was going with the beginning of that statement for dashing speed is that every character has a different dashing speed, and it varies from character to character, not necessarily with character size. For example, even though Perfect Cell it has the best dashing speed in the game, or one of the best, you know how Birder is one of the bigger characters in the game in terms of height?
Yeah.
He's still one of the fastest characters in the game.
Is it just because lore-wise, Bert is meant to be the fastest in the universe?
A lot of us think it is lore-wise, but we're not really sure because when we look at his character and then we look at base Trunks, for example, base future Trunks, the one that killed Cell in the future, he's also super quick.
Okay.
And then there's Lord Slug for whatever reason. This is a very unique example. His regular dashing speed, like if you're holding your left joystick in any direction and then you press cross, that's your regular dash. But if you do a dragon dash, for whatever reason, Lord Slug's dragon dash is a lot faster than a regular character. It's really weird that they did that way.
Just out of personal interest, because funny that you say this, my friends are going to see this and call me a tier whore because Cell was my secondary, but I mained Margin Vegeta. Where did he sit in terms of the tier? Was he high, mid, or low?
In Tenkaichi 3?
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be A or B tier, so he's not low tier and he's not high tier. He's just kind of like smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
But I feel like the reason why he's there is because all the competitive players that play competitive much more than I do haven't bothered exploring all of the options that they have with these different characters. I actually am in the process, excuse me, of creating a proper tier list for Tenkaichi 3, which actually factors in every single tool that all of these characters have. Like, for example, I'm recently mained Zangia in Tenkaichi 3. She's actually one of the stronger Ki Blast users in the game, but she's a glass cannon. She doesn't have great defense at all, but she also has one of the fastest dashing speeds in the game. And I feel like she's just been lumped in with like 20 or 30 other characters in the game is somewhere in B tier or something. And I feel like the reason why that is because the competitive players that play competitive haven't bothered sitting down and seeing every single tool that the characters have to offer and where they can be situated. Like, if I were to show you the tier list, it looks like a bunch of characters were just put into one space without actually wondering, okay, what does this character have to offer? Can I put them, like, at the top of this class tier? Like, they're on the borderline of A, but not quite S tier, or somewhere on the borderline of B tier, but not quite A tier. You know what I mean? So the characters like that. So Majin Vegeta, I actually unintentionally mained him recently, only because I don't like how his moveset looks in Sparking Zero. But I would say that he definitely is like at the bottom of A tier. Like, competitively, he's not a good character. But if you take your offense, advanced tech, and defensive capability to the maximum with him, I would say he's at least A tier at most. Probably in the middle of it.
Okay. And in terms of Sparking Zero, you haven't had a chance to actually sit down and play it yet, have you?
No, I have not. Bandai does not love me enough.
Sorry, they don't love me either. But based on what you've seen, with all of your expertise, I'm sure like you've got an eye to notice what is good and what isn't. Based on what you've seen from the footage that's come out, is there any characters that have caught your eye where you're thinking that character's going to be a problem, or that character's weak, or that character looks like there's some exploring to do there?
So, just from what Jun Furutani told us about, if you recall, in an interview, he did say that his vision for the game was to make it much more casual. And he also wanted to make it so that the game, excuse me, truly reflected the anime.
Yeah.
So if an anime character in Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball Z is strong, then in this game, they're going to be strong. And if you've seen any recent gameplay, we have seen that full power Jiren is a monster.
Yeah, it looks horrible.
Yeah, he's a freaking monster. As someone who mains Cybermen and Dodoria and all these other lesser tier characters, I'm actually genuinely curious as to how weak they're going to be, and it's for one other reason in particular. I don't know if you ever played Tenkaichi 1, and I'll get back on track after this, but in Tenkaichi 1, Cybermen literally does like 0 damage. He does no damage at all. And for whatever reason, Dodoria, Nappa, and Super Trunks in particular has super armor, and he hits like a truck. Even though he's terrible in Tenkaichi 2 and in Tenkaichi 3. So Tenkaichi 1 treated a lot of characters differently that way, and I'm really wondering if in Sparking Zero, is it going to be a damage difference, or is it going to be something a bit more similar to what Dr. Gero has? Because I don't know if you've seen it, but because Dr. Gero is a weaker character, I believe he starts off with 1 or 2 blast stocks, aka skill counts, in Sparking Zero the moment the fight starts.
They said that about Hercule as well, didn't they? That he starts off with like full key or
Or something,
yeah.
yeah. He
Okay,
starts
yeah.
off with, I think, 4 or full key bars, and he starts off with 2 to 4 blast stocks,
Okay.
which makes sense considering he's a character that cannot stagger you or anything. So, and back to the original question, I definitely would say that full power Jiren, probably Beerus, Blue Gogeta. I'm not sure about Blue Vegito. Who else? Whis 100% is going to be a problem. I'm not
I
sure
saw a
about
video yesterday of him just standing there and
like just
dodging
standing
everything.
there and
I was
dodging
sitting,
attacks.
I said it to my friend, I was like, how are we supposed to deal with this?
So the best way to deal with those things is, in Goku's case, is to deplete the user's ki or just wait for them to attack and try to do a counter attack.
Hmm.
So basically, it's the general thing with a boss fight. You wait for the opponent to attack in order to attack them.
Okay.
Basically is how that's going to work. In Whis' case, I have no idea because he doesn't actually have his ki drained while he's getting attacked, but I guess we'll find out. But again, back to the original question, I'm pretty sure that all the characters we've seen so far, including probably Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, will all be the naturally good characters.
Hmm.
And the thing that we have to keep in mind is that this is a modern game. Things can change.
Yeah.
If the fans actually reach out to Bandai and say, hey, this character is a little too broken, something needs to be done about it, they'll probably go out of their way and discuss, okay, what's the best way to change this character without taking away from them what makes them so busted, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure Jun Furutani does not want to retract his statement. Like, if a character is good in the anime, that character is going to be good in this game. And I respect that. But will that be fun for everyone who's playing, right? Like, if we have player matches, which are basically non-ranked matches online, you don't want to see people just using these characters every single day. You actually have people that want to use other weaker characters as well, not just people like me. So if they're going to be playing up against those characters, they have to make it somewhat reasonable to fight against that character because at the end of the day, it's still a video game.
Yeah.
So I think Jun Furutani's vision wasn't bad, but I think right now it might be poorly executed.
Okay. And so just shifting away from that slightly, I wanted to ask you about some things that I noticed different from Tenkaichi 3 to Sparking Zero. One of them was the beams. I've noticed that they curve now. Do you think that's going to play a significant role? Because I heard they changed it because the beams weren't very good in Tenkaichi 3 in general. Do you think it's the beams curving is a good thing or a bad thing?
I can and cannot answer that question, but I'll answer it in a very specific way. You know how each time we've seen a beam curve and then makes impact, whether it's on the character or just lands behind the character on the ground or wall, what have you, right? The amount of cloud and smoke that appears behind the character after the beam actually makes contact with the stage is it makes it so obscure I can't actually see what's happening. Like, has the beam curved and made contact, or did the character vanish? Did the beam curve and then like still try to track or something? So unless I see that from a clean perspective, like from the player's perspective, and then see what's happening to the beam, I really can't say for sure if that's going to be a good or a bad thing. But I probably will lean towards it being middle ground, like 50-50. I don't
Hmm.
think it's going to be good or bad because we have seen in the anime that moves can curve like that if the user chooses to do so. I think it probably will not be detrimental. I think it'll just be an entertaining visual more than anything else.
Okay, and there's another mechanic that I've seen now where I think they're called Z counters when you're getting attacked and then you'll sort of like bounce back and punch. But there's another mechanic where they sort of like grab your hand and it goes to a small cutscene and then they kick you away. It's like a counter to a counter. I don't know if that was ever in Tenkaichi 3. The first character I saw
Um,
doing it was Vegeta. Somebody went to punch him, he sort of stuck his hand out like that, and their hand hit and he sort of went into a cutscene and then he kicked you away.
oh, yes, that's called super perception.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, so in Tenkaichi 2 and Tenkaichi 3, we had a mechanic called the counterattack. In Tenkaichi 2, it was only executed, excuse me, by punching and then hitting circle, because if you punched and then hit your defend button, you would be sent into a counterattack stance. And in Tenkaichi 3, you could do that with an extra way, There's the Tenkaichi 2 method, which I just explained, and you can do it by holding circle and then pressing triangle. Now, if you do that before an opponent throws a punch at you, you'll successfully execute a counterattack. But if you do it as an opponent is throwing a punch at you, you'll end up doing the Sonic Sway. Now, where I was going with that is the counterattack is perception, but with a changed name.
Right.
That's
Okay.
all perception is. So perception is the regular counterattack that we all used to know, and super perception is one that I think takes one or two skill counts, and it's supposed to do like one or two different things. So I've seen it do two different things. If you remember in the Anime Expo footage with Ultra Instinct Sign Goku versus Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black did super perception there, but he did it with a heavy finish, which is the gut punch. And in many other cases, we've seen super perception being used and the opponent being smashed away.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like do you use super perception with one skill count in order to do a heavy finish? Do you do super perception with two skill counts in order to smash them away? Like I haven't actually bothered deducing that yet, but I'm going to assume that might be the case. But that was what you were asking. It's perception, which is counterattack that we used to know, and the newest one is super perception, which is what you just asked about.
Right. Okay. And wanted to ask you. So obviously the roster is huge. It's like 181 or 182 characters.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest fighting game roster that isn't a Mugen game, as far as I'm aware. Because I think Tenkaichi feels like 160, if I'm not mistaken.
150 to 160. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it's more than 160, somewhere around there, but yeah.
Are there any characters other than, I know everyone's upset about Super 17, but are there any other characters that you think have been missed out or that you want to see appearing on there? It can even be from like Dragon Ball Heroes or any other pieces of Dragon Ball media that you might be interested in.
So it's funny that you bring that up because Super 17 I'm actually not upset about, and the reason for that is because I know Bandai and I know how the game industry works, and I think you know as well. If he's not shown, it means that he's just going to end up being DLC. They're not
Yeah.
going to just throw Super 17 out the
Yeah,
window.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
definitely going to bring him in at some point sooner or later. How familiar are you with the characters from BoJack Unbound?
Yeah, I know the BoJack Unbound characters. I can't remember them by name, but seeing them, I'll be able to point them out.
So Zongya is a character that we did not see, and because I mained her recently in Tenkaichi 3, and I also mained her in Raging Blast 2 before I dropped the game. I was really upset that she wasn't revealed. But do you remember the guy that Super Trunks killed in that movie? One of BoJack's henchmen,
I
the
do.
one with
I remember who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, his name is Kogu, and I think in Dragon Ball Legends, for whatever reason, his name is Gokua. I haven't actually looked into why his name is Gokua, but I've been hoping that Kogu would be added to a Dragon Ball game or a Tenkaichi game for the longest time, and I'm sure that we will get him as DLC. Another character that I think probably will not be added, and I'm upset only for one reason that he won't be, is Base Garlic Jr. We saw Super Garlic Jr.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been using Base Garlic Jr. a lot, and you're actually going to see him very soon because I have some PvP footage with people I'm coaching and just general online footage where I've used him. The reason why I think that he's going to be skipped is because in Tenkaichi 3, if you played with him even for just like 5 seconds, he had one of the most jankiest rush moves ever. Like his rush string felt incomplete. It does not feel like a complete rush string whatsoever.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably why they didn't show him, and I personally think that they probably will skip him. But if they do bring him back, I will not complain. I'll be very happy. Um, I don't know if I mentioned him earlier when I was rattling off my Tenkaichi 3 mains, but Salza, one of Cooler's henchmen, was also not shown, and he's one of my favorite characters. So I'm really hoping that they bring him back. And if they do bring him back, we should get Dore and Nizu for one reason. Dore and Nizu were added in Raging Blast 2, and they're also Cooler's henchmen. So basically, the entirety of Cooler's armored squad, I'm hoping, will be in Sparking Zero.
Is that the
After
guy
that,
with the blonde hair that's sort of like he's got like the blades?
yes,
Yeah, yeah, I
yes, he's
remember him.
the purple guy. He's basically the space Frenchman.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what people
Yeah.
call him. Aside from them, I think there probably are, but I wouldn't be able to tell you unless I go back and watch the trailer. Because Zongia I was upset about. Salza I was upset about. Dore and Yuzu not being there. Oh, Androids 14 and 15. They were also added in Raging Blast 2. Now, personally, I wouldn't give a damn if they're added or not in Sparking Zero, but I did see that I think Android 14. I always get them mixed up, but I'm talking about the tall white one with a really long ponytail.
Yeah.
I think you remember the one I'm talking
Yeah, yeah.
about. And he had one of the weirdest movesets in Raging Blast 2, but I did find out recently that he was added to Dragon Ball Legends. So if Dragon Ball Legends can get him, I don't see a reason why Sparking Zero can't, right?
Yeah.
Um, Other than those characters, I can't think of anyone else. We got Dr. Wheelo.
Hmm.
Um, I was actually thinking whether or not we would get I think their names are Salt and Pepper, Garlic Jr.'s henchmen from
Yeah.
the movie. I'm actually surprised you even know what I'm talking about. They're
Oh,
so
I've got
forgettable.
all the Dragon Ball films. I've got them here.
They're so forgettable. After rewatching their fights with Goku in that movie, I don't see a reason why they can't be added. I think that they would be just like fodder, like wasted slots, but I think that they still would be fun to use just as like weak characters in the game. So other than all of that, I can't think of anyone else.
How
Oh
would
wait, you
you
did.
Sorry,
Go
go on.
ahead. You go first. No, you
How
go
would you
first.
how would you feel about them adding in like characters like Fu and Kumbra and characters from like the general Dragon Ball Heroes universe? Because obviously we've got like
Yeah.
Xeno,
So
Goku,
yeah.
and all that.
I was just about to get onto that actually, because I that's what I forgot to mention. The pre-order character, I was convinced it might have been Android 21, but the more that Bandai was pushing, or the developers, whoever was pushing Dragon Ball Daima, it seemed more and more obvious that the pre-order character was going to be Daima Goku. So I'm personally hoping that we do get Android 21 and Fu added to Sparking Zero, only because they have very unique move sets and I like both of their designs. And as for Super Dragon Ball Heroes, personally, if you remember any of these characters, Hearts.
Hearts,
I would
he had one of the
love
best
to
fight
have
scenes
Hearts.
in that show.
Hearts has one of the best designs I have seen for a Dragon Ball character, and his character, like his actual character development in the series, even though it was just a promotional anime for the arcade game, phenomenal. I
Hmm.
think he would be a perfect addition to Sparking Zero. Cumber would also be cool. Do you remember those two android or Tuffle looking characters that appeared earlier in the show as well?
The red and blue one, one of them possessed Vegeta.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't remember their names, but I think those two would also be a really cool addition. And while these two are purely fan service, Super Saiyan Blue corrupted Vegeta, I
Yeah.
think
The
would be
the
a
evil
really,
aura. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That was very cool.
I think it would be a really cool addition. And Super Saiyan 3 Rose Time Breaker Goku Black. God, that
Yeah.
was a mouthful. That was such a mouthful. I think he would be a great addition. And I think that this character will be added. He's not part of Dragon Ball Heroes at all, and we've already gotten him in 2 games already, if I recall. Super Saiyan Bardock. I'm really hoping
Hmm.
that we get him too. I'm also a fan of Turles, and I can't remember if Turles even went Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 3 in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, but I think he would also be a really fun
He had
character.
a weird form in that where his hair was still black, but it was at the length of Super Saiyan 3. Because remember,
Yes,
he beat up
yes.
Super Saiyan 3 Raditz.
Yes, I remember that, yeah. It's only because their hair is so long that basically they go like straight to Super Saiyan 3.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that was a really cool detail, so I kind of hope that they do get added. Other than that, I can't think of anyone else unless you want to just throw in like Super Saiyan God Trunks,
Hmm.
because do you remember that one time? I can't remember if it was in Super Dragon Ball Heroes or the promotional part for the game itself, completely separate from Super Dragon Ball Heroes, where future Super Saiyan God Future Trunks took out his sword. He made a circle, and then for whatever reason, Supreme Kai of Time came out of it. You remember that?
I vaguely remember that. I remember Super Saiyan God Trunks like drumming up, not controversy, but people weren't happy with things they were seeing.
Yeah, he had a really weird moveset, but I honestly loved his design and the moves that they gave him, so I think he would be a super cool addition to Sparking Zero. Supreme Kai of Time generally, I think she would also be a really cool design. Have you seen her design when she fought the other Supreme Kai? I think her name was Eos or Ios.
I don't think I saw the arc. I saw the arc with Hearts, and I saw the arc where Broly and Cumbra had their fight. and then I saw
Hmm.
the ending, but I might have missed that part.
So there's another one where Supreme Kai of Time goes into like her grown-up form or whatever it's called, like her
I've
full
seen that
power
form,
form.
yeah.
Yes, that form, perfect design. I absolutely loved that design. She didn't do a whole lot, but I think seeing her in like Sparking Zero art style would be really cool. I
Hmm.
think that would be a really cool addition. And other than those, oh, I can't believe I forgot this one. When I think it was when Goku and Vegeta fused to beat Super Saiyan 3 Rose Goku Black, and they had this like combination of Super Saiyan Blue evolution with Dragon Ball Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta. Do you remember that
Yeah,
part?
yeah, yeah.
That character would be a super cool to have in Sparking Zero. I don't even remember its name. It's like Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Gogeta or something like that, right?
It sort of, his hair was sort of like glowing pink almost, wasn't it?
No, actually,
Am
you
I
know what? I
thinking of
can
the
look it
wrong one?
right now. Yeah, I'll look it up for you right now. I can actually find this. It's got a really cool design. So I remember when he came on screen, he did like the motion of doing a Kamehameha. He did like this.
Hmm.
Partially clamped his hands, and then he got the aura of Super Saiyan Blue Evolution combined with what like seemed like the beginnings of Ultra Instinct.
I might have missed that one. The one that I was talking about was it was Gogeta, but his hair was the same color as Goku Black's. It was pink, and his
Hmm.
aura was sort of like sparkling, and he was fighting Super Saiyan 4 Broly. I don't know if you remember that fight.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Here's the one I'm talking about. Let's see if you remember this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. I was watching. Didn't he go up against Super Saiyan 3?
Rose.
Go. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
went up
yeah,
against Super Saiyan 3 Rose.
yeah,
This would be awesome character to have. Can you imagine how beautiful his key charging aura would be in Sparking Zero?
yeah.
Considering what we have with Ultra Instinct and Super Saiyan Blue Evolution? Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I mean
So yeah,
they've added so many characters. There's not that many like, places they can go now other than like heroes. And I've always wanted to see a Goku Black and Baby Vegeta fusion. I know the characters it canonically wouldn't make sense for them to get on because Goku Black, his philosophy on humans and immortals in general, and then Baby wanting to like would you say he wants to preserve life or he just hates Saiyans?
baby?
Yeah, he just hates
I think
Saiyans.
he hates Saiyans. Yeah,
Yeah.
he hates Saiyans.
So seeing it wouldn't make sense lore wise, but I think like seeing an evil Gogeta or an evil Vegeta would be pretty cool.
That's a very interesting combination, though. How did you think about that one? What made you think that would be a really cool design?
Well, because I mained Baby Vegeta in Dragon Ball Fighters and in
Fighter.
Tenkaichi 3, and well, he was one of my mains. And then I played Goku Black in Dragon Ball Fighters as well. And I always sat there thinking, wouldn't it be cool? Because one of them is Goku, a fake Goku, and one of them's a fake Vegeta. Wouldn't it be sick if they just had a
Oh
fake evil
yeah,
version?
that would be super hilarious. Actually, now
Yeah.
that you bring up that reasoning, yeah, that'd be super funny.
Because I
And
don't
since
even
you
know what their hair would look like. Because Baby Vegeta's turns white, his turns pink, so he'd have a completely unique look.
like white pink.
Yeah,
Yeah, now that you brought that up, I could think of another character that I guess would be a neat addition, but I kind of hope he doesn't make it into the game. Do you remember Copy Vegeta?
the pink one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it. When Vegeta was, he had the pacifier in his mouth.
I really hope that one doesn't make it into the game. Solely because it would literally just be a Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta clone, but a different color. If
Yeah,
he makes it into the game as a costume, that would be cool, though.
that would be cool. Yeah, do you remember that Dragon Ball game where you could mix and match fusions? So you could fuse Goku and
Dragon Ball
Broly.
Fusions.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm not saying they should do something like that because it might get a bit too stupid. But it was really cool to like mix and match different fusions.
I don't think it would get too stupid at all. I think that would be absolutely comical. I would love that.
Yeah, it would be fun. I mean, the video game's the best place to do it, right?
Exactly. We already had Dragon Ball Fusions. Why not give us like Dragon Ball Fusions 2 or just like implement some of those crazy fusions into Sparking Zero? How hilarious would that be?
It
Or
could be
think
good.
like this. You know how you have to have in team battle, if you've got Goku, you need to have Vegeta on standby in order to fuse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine if they bring in like triple fusions or maxi fusions that you could just fuse with your entire team?
That would be ridiculous. If you could fuse Vegito and Gogeta together.
That would be amazing, bro.
Didn't they
Oh
do
my god.
something like that in Dragon Ball Heroes? Was there a point where Vegeta and Gogeta fused, or am I remembering that wrong? Because I saw a fusion form and it looked odd. It looked like Super Saiyan 4, but it didn't have red hair. It had long black hair.
So I think at the end where they were defending that really big tree was probably where Xeno Goku, Vegeta, and then DBS Goku and Vegeta actually fused into their own respective forms.
Yeah, that
So
was it.
Xeno Vegeta fused into Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, if I recall correctly. And then I think Dragon Ball Super Goku and Vegeta also fused into Vegito. So we had like Super Saiyan 4 Vegito and Super Saiyan Blue Vegito side by side, which was
Yeah,
crazy.
that was pretty cool. Right,
Yeah,
well, I wanted to ask you, like you do a lot of coaching. Are these things that you charge for? And if so, like how do people get in contact with you to do these things?
I do charge for coaching, and I'll be very transparent with this process. Whether you include this in the video is totally up to you or not, but I don't lie to anyone. I initially was not planning to charge for coaching, and the reason was because Tenkaichi 3 is an old game. I personally didn't feel comfortable doing that, but my dad and I are businessmen. We're in finance and investments, and he has a lot of close friends who have seen me grow up. And one evening, I sat down with them at my uncle's house, my non-blood uncle's house, and we were just chatting and doing whatever. And they gave me like a 20-minute lecture saying that I should charge people for coaching, and the reason is because I've put, excuse me, so much time and energy into this game over the years that people getting my time for free, I wouldn't say it's unfair, but it does seem like something that you should charge for because if, for example, let's say someone works throughout the day and they don't get home until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right? If they're paying for my time, I can accommodate them at their time because
Hmm.
that's the only time that they get free. So when my dad and my non-blood uncle told me all of that information amongst other things, I was like, okay, fine, I'll charge. And I figured, you know what? My price is $10 for an hour, $10 an hour. Depending on whether or not we're covering more advanced mechanics, I might ask the trainee if they want to do $15 for 90 minutes instead, because there's a certain mechanic I'm actually going to be doing with someone else very soon, which requires a lot of time and effort. So I figured that might have been worth it. But I do charge, and the only reason is because people are paying for my time, my energy, my knowledge, my skills. So it seemed like an all right thing to do, and I didn't want to charge too much. I think $10 is very fair. I do have a lot of people who are like in high school and in college and can't really afford that, but they're honest with me about it, and they have actually told me that no, I do want to pay for your time and energy. It doesn't seem right, so I'm like, thank you for being honest with me, and we'll keep it at that.
Yeah, well, no, I think you're perfectly fine with charging, especially because, like I said, I played Tenkaichi 3 with a lot of friends, and we all thought
Hmm.
we were good, and then we came across your channel, and the scope of the game shocked us. We had no idea you could do all of those things, so I can imagine it took a lot of time. I wouldn't charge someone on Tekken just because I can only use one character. I can use
Hmm.
the character okay, but I'm not like you can use every single character in the game. You've created your own tech, so I imagine it took a long time. Like if Sparking Zero has that level of depth, and I feel like you have those skills that I can acquire from you, I wouldn't mind paying $10 to British pounds, like £7, I think. So it's not a lot of money to ask, especially when you're growing a channel. But that's good to know. At least people know, like, because I was wondering as well, how are people getting to sit down and do coaching sessions with you? Is that something that you're planning on opening up for Sparking Zero, or are you still unsure because of how difficult the game might be?
Um, I already have like a planned price and everything for doing coaching at Sparking Zero. The only thing is, with how casual Jun Furutani has wanted the game to come out, and it really seems like he's succeeded in that goal. I don't know if it's worth charging anyone for anything in Sparking Zero until I get my hands on it and see what the game has to offer. But just to backtrack really quick for one thing about the character mastery that I have, that was actually one of the reasons why several of my friends told me that I should charge because I'm one of the only people that they know in the entire community that could cover characters like Dudoria, Salza, Super Garlic Jr. I can cover literally every single character in the game, what the character can and cannot do, and how well you can do with them versus whether it's a casual match or a competitive match, what you should do if it's a competitive match, or which character you should use and take that to the maximum in a competitive match. So back to Sparking Zero, I do have a price plan for coaching. I'm just uncertain of how it's going to be executed right now because without playing the game myself, I can't tell if it's worth charging for anything. But I will be telling people that until after probably the first week or 2 weeks of the game, I'm not going to be training anyone because I need to find out, does this game have anything to offer that I can relay to other people that want to learn the game.
Okay. And just two more things I want to ask you.
You can ask me 22 more things if you want.
Huh?
You can ask me 22 more things if you want.
I don't want to keep you the whole day. I could sit here and talk about Dragon Ball all day,
Yeah,
but there's two
we
main
could just
things.
end up talking about video games anyway.
There's two main things I want to ask you. Well, because I come from like a Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter background. So those players that are going to be jumping into Sparking Zero, what advice could you give them if they're apprehensive, if they think that this is just a button masher, if they think it's just a game that you pick up and you can do whatever you want with, assuming that Sparking Zero is going to be similar to Tenkaichi 3? What advice could you give to those players? Because I have a lot of people in my community that are apprehensive about buying it because of the stigma that arena fighters have.
So what I would say is to treat Sparking Zero with a very, very open mind, because since your question is directly involving Sparking Zero, that's the best answer I can give, and I'll give more details on that in a second. If it were about Tenkaichi 3, I would definitely not just say open mind, but also try and sit down and study what the game has to offer, go online and see what the tutorials also have to offer, because obviously Tenkaichi 3 has a plethora of tech and it has a lot of depth. Sparking Zero, we currently don't know, but until I think I would say like 2 weeks after the game is out, unless there are people who plan to lab like 2 weeks straight, because I'm not gonna lab for 2 weeks straight. Like I also have things to do in real life. Until the game is out for 2 weeks, I don't think there is a definitive answer or definitive advice I can give you to relate to those people other than being open-minded. But I can say maybe if they want to, and if your friends are willing to do this, spend some time studying Tenkaichi 3, and once they've got their hands on Sparking Zero, they can get a good comprehension of a certain mechanic in Tenkaichi 3, and then see if that translates well in Sparking Zero. Because keep one thing in mind, a lot of the one frame tech that we have in Tenkaichi 3 might be one frame for one specific reason. The game runs 30 frames per second. Sparking Zero is going to run 60. So because Sparking Zero is going to run 60, Z counters are going to be a lot easier. Other tech that might be more difficult will also be significantly easier to execute. So if your friends want to, if they're really willing to give Sparking Zero a chance, I would recommend that they first dive a little bit into Tenkaichi 3, spend a little time there, see what the game has to offer. If they find something that they really like, spend some time trying to get that execution down, then get back on Sparking Zero and see if they can find out if the game also has that tech. Because even if a Tenkaichi 3 tech does not transfer over to Sparking Zero, the inputs and muscle memory that you learn from learning that tech in Tenkaichi 3 will still help you to learn other things in Sparking Zero and in other games overall. I think yourself as an FGC player would probably wholeheartedly agree with that. Like if you were to play or master certain mechanics and characters in Tekken, Street Fighter, Blaze Blue, what have you, those inputs that you use for those games transfer over very well to a game like Tenkaichi. And I
Mhm.
say that I've played those games as well. I can't speak for, let's say, One Piece Burning Blood or Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, other games like that.
Okay, and this is not a sparking related question, but it is surrounding arena fighters. What is your opinion on the new Bleach game?
I actually still have yet to catch up with everything on the new Bleach game, but personally, I love Bleach. I still have to go back to Bleach and finish the last 10 episodes that I missed before I start the Thousand Year Blood War. And I've been seeing a lot of drama and stigma around the new Bleach game, and all I can say is, people, if you like Bleach, play the damn game.
Mm.
That's all I gotta say. If you like Bleach, play the game. If you're trying to play it on a competitive level, wait until the game comes out and see what the game has to offer. If you enjoy Bleach, enjoy Bleach. If you don't enjoy Bleach, find another game. Because I haven't played a Bleach game in years. I love Bleach, and regardless of how the game comes out, I'm going to give it as big a chance as I possibly can. Spend as much time on it as I possibly can to find out if it has any cool tech like Tenkaichi 3 might have. And worst comes to worst, if I don't like it, I'll drop it.
Mhm.
If I enjoy it, I'll continue uploading it.
Okay, awesome. So, in terms of your channel, then, just to close off, are you going to be regularly uploading for Sparking Zero? Do you have like a whole schedule or plan? Can people like, can they look forward to seeing uploads from you in the future?
I am 100% going to be covering Sparking Zero weekly. I can't say daily only because again, I have my own stuff to do in real life. I can't sit down here all the time and focus on YouTube. But I will be doing PvP, I will be doing tutorials, I will be labbing to find tech. If the game does have enough to offer, I will 100% be doing coaching, and I will only announce that probably 2 weeks after the game is out or after I've personally felt that I've achieved a certain amount of time on the game that I can say, okay, this game has enough that I can actually teach people for. And just to let people know, my channel is not strictly Dragon Ball. It is mostly Dragon Ball, but I am still planning to upload other games like Tekken. I'm not sure about Street Fighter 6 right now, but Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, and a bunch of other games are on my list. So if you're coming to my channel just for Dragon Ball, just consider the fact that I'm not doing only Dragon Ball, but if you are there for Dragon Ball, I do go out of my way to make sure that the videos I deliver to you are the highest quality and I do not cut corners. If a video is more than 10 minutes long, it's because it needs to be 10 minutes long. If I'm cutting something out from that, it's because I'm skipping information that I feel like you need and I don't want to do that. I
Mhm.
will not video shorter and cut out information that I feel is vital for you as the viewer to have.
Awesome, bro. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can do it again after Sparking Zero comes out, because I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the game after the release. But I really appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun knowing that you're based in the UK. I'm actually wondering how many people are going to get on my ass about calling X Cross instead of X. That
Well,
should be a
I was
lot of
gonna I was
fun.
gonna point it out to you. We don't call it cross. We just call it X.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember around a decade ago when I was still when I still had a lot of friends in the UK that I spoke to, they did tell me that you guys called it Cross and not X. Maybe they call it Cross in Asia, I guess.
Maybe there's probably parts of the UK I can imagine. Maybe the more posh parts. I don't live in a very
Yeah.
posh place. We just call it X. Yeah.
But yeah, I had a great time. I hope everyone enjoys this video. If you guys have any questions on this video, I definitely will try and check the video frequently for any questions you might post because YouTube has been absolutely terrible this entire year for notifying people of responses on their comments on someone else's video. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've been having that problem, but it's been driving me crazy.
Once you get to
So
a certain number of subscribers, it starts to act like you, the user, don't care. So I have to
I
go
don't
and
care.
check myself, and I'm like, I want to respond to everybody, but YouTube's not telling me.
I mean, like, if I do end up getting to like 50 or 100K, obviously my responses are definitely going to be cut significantly less. But up until that point, I still want to go out of my way to respond to everybody. And the fact that YouTube is doing this, I guess like maybe I should be thankful that YouTube is saying, okay, you've got enough subscribers now. We're not going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
notify you anymore. But yeah,
yeah.
it does drive me crazy. So again, I hope everyone enjoyed, and definitely maybe the next time I will drag Mike Hollow into an anime and gaming conversation.
Oh, 100%, bro. I'm always down for it. All right, bro. I appreciate your time, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, take care, everybody. This is Grandmaster Hawk signing out.
See
Thanks,
you later,
Mike, for
bro.
having
Take care, bro.